As we discussed previously, I want to use a Keith Black oil pump on the next build. So let's look at the options. I've got this one. It's a dual inlet like most fancy systems, and I can cut a shorter bolt here to clear that. It is external oil filter, but that's not a big deal. I can get around that. We got a radiator hose interference problem, but you can get these 90-degree ORB fittings and put in there, and that'll take care of that. The big problem that I see is it's got 1.5-inch long rotors, and I think it's just going to pump way too much oil. And Keith Black must agree with me, because when he came out with his next oil pump, the billet oil pump, it had 1 3/8 gears, rotors in the pump. So if KB is telling us that 1.5 inches is too long, which is basically what he said when he comes out with the new one and it's 1 3/8, then yes, I'm on the right track. Here's the problem on this pump. This is a dual inlet also, but it's in one fitting, which is real sexy. This one fitting goes into the top, and then this channel here goes down to the bottom. So I like that. And this is reduced to a 16 right now, but I have the fitting that makes this the normal -20, which gives you, enormous volume. Tom Hoover would be proud of me, because he says worry about the inlet side, because the passages in the block are big enough already. So here's the problem. I could get around the dipstick problem. The problem is that's going to be right there on this header pipe. Well, that's not going to work. I hate to cut up a brand new set of coated TTI headers to take this pipe from here to here. Not to mention, I'm no fabricator. I can't do it anyway. But I'd have reservations about that. So what's the next plan? It's my understanding that this pump was available later on. This is an earlier one with 1.5 inches. But they tell me that the later versions of this had 1 3/8. So if that's the case, I think this would be the answer. The cast pump, which I like the look of the cast better. That billet one, that's sexy how both inlets go in one fitting and it's a -20. I like that. But if I can find one of these in 1 3/8, surely we could get by. The pump that's on us now is less than 1 inch, but we all run high volume pumps, and they are 1 3/16 rotors. So that, we get by, and maybe I could get by with this. Of course, it's going to be fine on a test stand 1 3/8, because you're not turning RPMs. If you were actually driving it, racing it, doing 6,500 or 7,500, you'd be making a lot of oil pressure, a lot of volume, which turns into pressure. But that's what I think the best plan is. Find a Keith Black pump that's a later model, if it's like I was told, that with 1 3/8 rotors, and then run that. I think that's the best plan so far. Now we get to the head gasket issue on a Keith Black block. It's a little different, and I think we've touched a little bit on this topic before, how the steam holes are in a little different location than a stock engine. There are several workarounds for that, and we'll go over some of that. This is a 65 head gasket, which I prefer because they're embossed copper and I like them, and that's the way it was in the old days. But of course you can't buy them, but even if you could buy them, they won't work on this engine because these head gaskets are for a 425 bore and this is a 4500 bore. So that's not an option anyway. But I just put this up here to illustrate that the steam holes are in a different location, and there is not a steam hole in the Keith Black block for this location on the ends here. But that's not a problem. You know you have to buy Cometic head gaskets, and everybody loves Cometic anyway except me, so you just buy the Cometics. You got to buy the Cometics for the Keith Black block, and you use those and you see the steam holes are in the right location. They also have that, but we won't try to figure that out. Some people say plug the steam holes. Well, I guess you could, because the Cometics have water passages here, whereas the 64 doesn't, the 65 doesn't, and the Street Hemi doesn't. So that would probably be a fix. You could probably just do it that way. But just because I'm old school, they came with steam holes down here. This block has steam holes down here. So that's what I want. I want to use it just like that. So, but we have had gaskets, so that's not a problem. Now there is a problem on Cometics on this brad. You see how it's touching the deck there, and I think it's even worse on the Callies, and plus you have the Edelbrock, I think, has a hump here. So this brad gets in your way, and the go around for that is to either drill out that brad or grind off the top and just push it out, and take some aviation safety wire. This is 021, and just, you know how the safety wire, how they tighten it up, you know, after you stick it through there, and then just tighten it up, and then you won't have, see how it's hitting the deck? You don't want that, Jesus. So you're going to have to get rid of that, probably with any block, but while we had this Cometic up here, I thought I should lay it there. So that's what I want to do. I'll use the Cometics, and that'll put all of our holes in the right place. As I'm sure somebody has told you before, you have to have a plan B. 5 or 6 years ago, I had Stage 5 make me these heads for a Keith Black block, so the steam holes are drilled in the proper location. And then this summer, when I first started thinking about this build, I took these to Ray Barton and he ported them, and now they're beautiful. So that's great. So if I can't find what I want, we got something to do. Now the Keith Black block does not use this water passage here. So just to be safe, you can tap that for a 1/16 pipe plug and put that in there. I don't see a reason not to. You can't, the block can't use that. So, and the Cometics are, you know, to check your water passages, you know, you set the Cometic on there, and yes, they're right where they're supposed to be. So everything is good. Stage 5, the guy died a couple months ago, and they closed up last month, and everything was looking pretty bleak. They had the auction, but the guy that now owns Keith Black's also bought Stage 5. So this should be a wonderful thing for us, because now we'll probably give him 6 months to get tooled back up and get in the groove making these. And then we can get heads again that have steam holes in the proper location. And just get heads, period, if you know what I mean. Although somebody needs to tell him to delete this hole if it's got Keith Black spacing here. You already know a Keith Black block doesn't use this hole, so somebody needs to tell him to fix that. But, so, I mean, these are going to be wonderful if I have to use them. I just don't want to, that's not the theme of the build, But we do have a plan B. When I built this test stand, I didn't really think it needed an alternator because it's got a battery and you're not going to be running that long, and I thought you just charge the battery before you use it. It's not like you're going to be using it every day. And I didn't think it would really matter, but what ended up happening was on that long run when you're breaking in a camshaft, these fans pull 20 amps a piece, so that's 40 amps. And I thought that I'd just put my battery charger on the battery on a long run like that. But that digital battery charger, it couldn't figure out what was going on with the draw being on the battery at the same time it was trying to put it in, so it would kick out an error message after 60 seconds or so. So that idea didn't work. This trial and error. So it was obvious if I was going to do any long pulls, I was going to have an alternator. So I got these pieces from Doty Manufacturing, D-O-T-Y, in Montana. They got this bracket that hooks to the fuel pump, and they sell those pulleys and these little spacers. I had these from a previous job, really. And I think I got that alternator on eBay. And that alternator at the RPM that, it's a 90 amp, and at the RPM that during a camshaft break-in is supposed to give plenty of power to keep the battery up. And it's been working fine. I haven't had any long runs like that, but after I run, the battery hasn't lost anything. So it's doing a great job, but this just in case somebody needs to put one. Actually, you could put that on a car, I guess. Got a little bracket back here and a turnbuckle to adjust the belt tension on the bottom. But so you could use that on a car. But for somebody that, any kind of situation like this, it worked out real good.